13 years of code. 13 years. Then, in 5 days, he ships a fully working blog platform with deep research and full retrieval baked in for $200 on Claude tokens. The same product the first time around took 6 people, 18 months, and about $4 million. This is Gary Tan, president of Y Combinator, and his workflow is so unusual that the YC partners had to dedicate a whole Lightcone episode to documenting it. We are going to walk through it scene by scene. Quick note before we go in. Everything in this video comes from one Y Combinator Lightcone episode called Thin Harness, Fat Skills, hosted by Gary Tan and the YC partners on the official Y Combinator channel. We are going to summarize the workflow, pull out the actionable parts, and add a few notes from our own testing. The original conversation is 41 minutes long and worth watching in full. The link is in the description. We will repeat it again at the end. And full credit goes to the YC team for the source material. Start with the project that triggered everything. It is called Gary's List at gararis.org. Gary built the original version, called Posterous. Back in 2008, 6 people, 18 months, $4 million in funding. Twitter eventually bought it. He rebuilt it again as Post Haven a few years later, with one co-founder in roughly 3 months for about $100,000. And then in January of this year, he rebuilt it a third time. 5 days. $200 on a Claude Code Max subscription. And this version is not just a blog platform. It crawls the internet for context, runs deep research, cross-references 20 sources at a time, and produces fully sourced investigative articles about California politics, education policy, and housing. One person, 5 days, doing the work of a real human journalist for about $5 to $10 per article in Opus calls. That single example is the entire thesis of the episode. The first big idea is something Gary calls boiling the ocean. When you were writing code yourself as a human, you would settle. You would search Google, click the first 3 results, skim them, write your code, and ship. That is the human attention budget. Now, you do not have to settle. If a research task would have taken a human a full month, just zap the rocks harder. Pay the tokens. Read every blog post, every paper, every tweet, every counter-argument. Cross-reference 40 sources instead of 3. Find the 13 that agree, find the 7 that disagree, and feed all of it into the core prompt. The output is dramatically better. This is what Gary calls token maxing, and it is a complete inversion of how engineers were trained to think about cost. Your token bill goes up, your work product gets way more complete, and the marginal dollar spent on inference is one of the highest leverage dollars you will spend this year. Gary did not plan to build a skill stack. He just got tired of typing the same prompts into Claude Code over and over again. So he opened Apple Notes, copied his greatest hits, and turned them into reusable skills. The first one was a plan review skill. The trick that made it work was forcing Claude to draw an ASCII art diagram of the system before writing any code. Data flow, state machines, dependency graphs, decision trees. Once that diagram is in context, the model boils the ocean better. It writes more complete code. It catches edge cases it would have missed. The second skill was even simpler. 2 sentences. It says, imagine Brian Chesky is sitting next to you. What does the platonic ideal of this product look like? What is the 10-star version that delivers 10 times more value for 2 times the effort? He calls it the CEO plan. And he says, those 2 short sentences unlock a stunning amount of latent capability. Both skills became the founding pieces of an open repo called GStack. Here is the rule that separates working AI code from pure slop. Get to 80 to 90% test coverage, not 50, not 70, 80 to 90. Gary admits he ignored this on the first version of Gary's list, and he hit the exact failure mode every vibe coder hits. The product worked beautifully when he used it himself. The minute real users touched it, things fell over. Edge cases everywhere. The fix is not to write better code. The fix is to let the agent write the tests and to let it write a lot of them. Unit tests, integration tests, end to end tests, the boring stuff humans always cut corners on. The machine does not care. It does not get bored. It will just zap the rocks more. And once you cross the 80% line, the system stops surprising you in ugly ways. Here is the workflow that genuinely shocked me. Gary uses Claude code as his daily driver, but he has a slash command called slash codex. When Claude finishes a plan or finishes implementing a feature, Gary types slash codex. The skill spins up OpenAI Codex on the same repo with a single prompt. Find every bug. Find every problem. Codex reports back. Claude Code reads the feedback and fixes the issues. Gary describes it like this. Claude is the ADHD CEO who moves at incredible speed, but occasionally fabricates. Codex is the 200 IQ near non-verbal CTO who is slower but spots the deep architectural issues. So you let them tag team. Plan with Claude. Sanity check with Codex, implement with Claude. The combination is a completely different category of output than either model alone. And honestly, this is the single most actionable idea in the entire episode. This is the central thesis of the episode and the title. Thin harness, fat skills. Most agentic engineers are putting logic in the wrong layer. You have two layers to work with. The deterministic layer, which is regular code. Brittle, exact, ones and zeros. And the latent space layer, which is the model itself. Fuzzy, generic. It knows who you are and what you want. The mistake is to put things in code that should be in Markdown and to put things in Markdown that should be in code. Gary uses a wedding planner analogy. The instructions, the values, the special cases, the taste. All of that belongs in Markdown, in skill files, in plain English. The deterministic actions, the API calls, the 10 phone calls to the venues, those belong in code. And the harness itself, the outer loop that takes user input, calls the model, and runs the tools. That should be a thin, generic, off-the-shelf library, not something you rebuild every time. Thin harness, fat skills. That is the slogan. And it explains why Claude Code and similar tools have quietly eaten every custom-built predecessor. Gary now spends about half his time inside a tool called OpenClaw, an open source agent that runs on the same anthropic models as Claude Code. He says using it feels like driving a Ferrari. Exhilarating. It figures out things you never thought a machine could figure out. And it does them at unbelievable speed. But it is also a Ferrari in another way. It will break down on the side of the road at the worst possible moment, and you better be a mechanic. He compares this moment in software to the homebrew computer club era. The original Apple one was a breadboard nailed into a wooden case with duct tape. If you wanted a personal computer, that is what you had to deal with. Right now, that is what personal AI looks like. You spend 2 or 3 hours and a few $100 in tokens to get something running, and once it runs, you can drive it anywhere. And this is where the episode gets philosophical, but in a useful way. Gary frames the next 10 years as a single binary choice. We either each have our own AI, our own data, our own integrations, our own prompts, with full control over what we see and what gets generated. Or we use somebody else's. We log into a hosted product, like a Facebook feed, where we have no idea who wrote the algorithm, what business model sits behind it, or whose interests are actually getting optimized for. He calls personal AI the next personal computer revolution. And the choice, in his framing, is whether you are willing to write your own prompts, run your own harness, and pay your own tokens. If you are not, you live below the API line of some product manager who does not know you and never will. That framing alone is worth the price of admission to the original episode. There is one meta point Gary keeps coming back to, and it is the practical advice the rest of the episode rests on. People look at their Claude Code bill and freak out. $500 in a single day, $1,000 in a week. They think they are doing something wrong. Gary's framing is that token spend is exactly like San Francisco rent. The first instinct of every founder is to economize. Go live somewhere cheaper. The actual right move is to pay more, live in the dog patch, get the serendipity, get the access, get the wins. Tokens are the same. If you are building something of real value, do not optimize the bill, optimize the output. The $500 Opus day might be the highest leverage day you have all year. Cheap will keep you small. Quick personal ask before we wrap. 90% of the people who watch this channel never subscribe. If you found this breakdown useful, please hit subscribe. And just to be clear, subscribing on YouTube is not the same as following the Hyper Automation Labs page on Facebook. They are completely separate things. Subscribers are the single biggest signal that helps the channel grow. And right now, we are still early enough that subscribing actually moves the needle. Subscribe early, win early. Comment the word Gary below this video, and we will send you the token maxing playbook as a free PDF with the full GStack workflow, the thin harness, fat skills cheat sheet, and the entire Claude Code plus Codex tag team setup laid out step by step. The original Lightcone episode is on the official Y Combinator channel. The title is Thin Harness, Fat Skills, and the link is right there in the description. Big thanks to the YC team for the source material. Catch you in the next one.